thought maybe I would talk about print on demand and KDP. So I know maybe that's not the most entertaining thing in the world for everybody, but I figure if somebody's watching my stuff, they're interested in art or in some form, maybe. So you can make these books. See, these are called low content books. KDP, you might know about them, but not everybody does. And you make them on Amazon. There's a little bit of a learning curve. If you have never laid out a book before, that's kind of all part of it. But there's tutorials all over YouTube on how to make a book. And I like these books because they're low content, which means there's nothing in them, right? So you can make notebooks. Is that a notebook? Or sketchbooks. And they're cool to have, and you can make them for yourself, or you can sell them online if you want to on Amazon. And once you put them up and you make one, it goes up on Amazon wherever you want it to. And but it's like anything else on the internet, unless you're on Etsy that has a built-in marketplace, and some of the t-shirt places kind of have a marketplace, but factually people get frustrated. You have to have a clientele. So I would suggest, if you are trying to sell your art or reproductions of your art, whether it be on books or t-shirts or any other kind of stuff, which to me is a good way to sell art, because for little money you can get a lot more people to enjoy or own your art. Not everybody can go out and buy an original painting and then lock it in their house where nobody else is going to see it, right? So to me, I've always been into reproduction of art. That's why I've screen printed for too many years. But so you go to Amazon, you just go to KDP, and there's a guy on YouTube. I think his name's Paul Morles, Morles, I think. Or if you just do a search in YouTube for KDP, he's usually the first guy that comes up. And don't get all excited about, you could sell 600 books a day, and this, well, maybe somebody does, but it's not very easy to do that. So don't get excited about that. You have to build your own clientele. You have to direct people to what you're selling, either with your Facebook or your Instagram, or calling up your friends on the phone, or telling your mom and dad. You have to direct people to your stuff. If you do events, you can order this stuff for yourself. I mean, these books are pretty cheap, if you do them yourself. Now, these aren't the highest quality books in the world. It's not a $50 book. It's a $6 to $10 book. And believe it or not, you can make money at $6 to $10 on these things, just on Amazon. If it sells while you're sleeping, that's pretty cool. And I've got lots of art laying around, and I figured, hey, I'll just start making a handful of these things, So there's little tricks. So you have to have an image on the page or they reject it. So you see that little dot right there? It's almost invisible. If you don't put a little something on there, the computer rejects it because they want content in the books. So I do a few events and I'll sell these, but these are just really cool to give to your friends and stuff like that, or and people will buy them. If they know they're there, they'll buy them. I'm really bad at that. I even forgot to put any up for Christmas, so someday I'll get around to it, I guess. But let's look at the comparison. This is print on demand. You don't have that much control over the quality. You assume they know what they're doing, right? So, but really what you give them is what you're going to get back. It's not the best paper. This isn't archival stuff or anything. If you wanted to get into that, you're going to have to print yourself. And now we'll do a little comparison here. Now this is our dry heat book that I did with my friend Sean Wheeler, and which, by the way, has really been a fun project, and we're just getting started with this, really. But we printed this ourselves. This is not print on demand. We went to the printer. I've got a print now. You can see the difference in the difference is just night and day. Okay. But this is not going to be a $5 book either. So this would be more a collectible book. You know, something you're going to keep and hang on to. And so we spent money on this, quite a bit of money to print these. So if you're going to print your own book, you got to be prepared to spend a little money. And you have to print a lot, because if you don't, you're going to pay a lot. So in printing, the rule is if I print more, they get cheaper, and usually starts at minimal of 1,000 books. You got an avenue to sell 1,000 books? You might think about that before you get into it, or you'd be sitting with a whole bunch of books in your house. Or if you can afford it, take your time selling them. Then you figure out how much does it cost me to break even, and how many books do I have to sell. And maybe it's not that big of a deal. So, but I've been doing this a long time, so I'm pretty confident on what I can handle, what I can do. The dry heat book, we don't even offer it for sale online, because we do an event that's kind of built itself around the book, and Sean performs, and we have musicians and puppeteers, and who knows what's coming next. I want wild children, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I can't catch any. But my point is, there's different ways to get your stuff out there. If you're an artist, you can do print-on-demand books. You can do T-shirts. There's places like Threadless and what's the other one, Redbubble. There's a whole bunch of different ones, Printful. And, you know, I used to avoid that kind of stuff because the quality was pretty much garbage. And, again, you're not going to be making collectible stuff at these places. You're making usable garbage culture stuff. Although these books are pretty cool. I mean, I think people buy these and they keep them, you know. And you can sign them, you know, unless you're selling them through Amazon. If you buy them in stock, a few for your friends, you can offer them signed and, you know, do a doodle in them or something, you know. So, but the T-shirts and stuff, the print-on-demand stuff's gotten pretty good with these. They've got these new machines, the Brothers, and they've kind of dialed it in to where they can do a pretty decent T-shirt, you know. Good colors on black and all that. They're not cheap. They're not cheap at all, but if you consider you don't have to set up a screen printing shop, you don't have to ship it, you don't have to know how to print. All you have to know to do is make the art and get it into their system. And the way those companies work is they're just loading files and printing product. They don't care what's on it. So it's all automated, you know. So same with the books, T-shirts, posters. I mean, you go to a site like Threadless or Printful, you can print on anything. Coffee cups. You can just offer your stuff on everything. You're not going to make a ton of money on them, but you're going to make more. You can make $5 a shirt and sell it at a pretty good price, and that's pretty good. You know, if you're not doing anything, you don't even, it could happen when you're asleep, you know. So again, it's directing people to your products that makes all the difference in the world. And that's where you should be building up a following some other way, like Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you know, if you want to sell stuff, you know. So me, I have to eat. So I've always made stuff. I'm probably always going to. If I'm not making this kind of stuff, I'd much rather be making handmade stuff. But if I can do a bunch of this kind of stuff and it's selling while I'm making handmade stuff, that's pretty cool, right? I mean, I'm never not doing anything because I'll get bored and I'll hear voices or something. So I need to keep busy, you know. So those are different ways you can do it. And there's sites. There's one site called Canvas or Canva. Look it up. You'll see. And it's kind of like a Photoshop. And it's got all kinds of templates. You can just make, you know, you can make the pages for these books. So you're not limited to no content. That's just, to me, I've got all this art laying around, or I'm always drawing, and why not throw it on the cover of these books and make some cool little books, you know? You could write a whole novel here. It could be photography. It could be, you know, how to raise a toad, or, you know, how to change your transmission, or any kind. Everybody's got something they know about, right? Or you would hope. You know, or maybe if they don't, that's where the blank book comes in. It's just like a buzzing noise in your head, and somebody else might find that interesting. I don't know about that, but so you can publish any kind of book you want at Kindle. Now, when it says Kindle, it doesn't mean it's the electronic book, although there is the option for that on there, which would, if you do, I mean, who's going to buy a Kindle with blank pages, right? So that's better for like a tangible book you hold in your hand. So I would say, if you can build up a clientele, this is a good way to do it. Don't waste your time on other than the tutorial sites will show you how to physically make the book. Don't buy into the bullshit where, oh, you need all these, you know, keywords, or buy some stuff from me to make it work better. And the fact of the matter is, you're not going to sell hardly anything if you don't tell people it's there. So when I first started selling stuff on the web, it was like magic. And this was in the early 90s when it first started appearing, and I put my first t-shirt catalog up on there, and I just took pictures of the pages and paid some guy to make a web page for me, and said, send me money. And I was getting a bunch of money. People were sending me all kinds of money in the mail, you know, and because there was no one else on there. So there was some really cool stuff on there in the beginning, you know, and, you know, people that were really adventurous, I guess, were the first people on there, and lots of cool art and all kinds of crazy serial killer shit, and you know, so I immediately, as soon as I was able to figure it out, I put up a little mail order thing, and I lived up in the Cascades at that time in the remote wilderness, and I'd go to town and pick up a bag of checks every day. Those days aren't there anymore. People won't find you on the internet unless you tell them where you are. Even on this Amazon thing, you're going to be one of millions of people doing similar things. So the advantage you have if you can do your own art is there's a whole bunch of people on there thinking they're going to get rich, and they're just using clip art, and you know they're just setting themselves up for another disaster or another letdown because they think they're going to get rich. Oh, this is so easy. I'm the first guy to come up with this stupid idea, you know, but it's full of that kind of garbage. So, but if it is what it is. If you make cool art, you'll have a cool book. It's going to be what you make it, right? So, again, you're going to sell it to the people that you direct to it. And that's with anything on the internet anymore. You can get a Shopify, all that. And I've done all that stuff. And people aren't going to see it unless you direct them to it. Because you're out there in a sea of... Every person in the world has something on the internet. And you're competing with Facebook and Amazon. And you're competing with all of that. So you have to... And they spend a shitload of money getting people to come look at them, right? So I would build up a clientele. That's your most important thing to do if you want to sell art, and then or anything, sell anything. You could put car parts on there, but if people don't know they're there, you're not going to sell nothing. So that's my little thing on the KDP. Don't believe most of the bullshit they tell you on the sites, but you can make cool stuff. You can make it cheap. These are cheap books. You can sell these real cheap. So inexpensive, right? And they're cool enough. They're as good as anything in a bookstore. They're just not, like I said, it's not a $50 book. But if you've got art fans, man, who wouldn't want something of yours, something. I mean, they're still rare because how many people do you got that are going to buy them, So when you're looking in the world of collectibles, rare can be hundreds of thousands of things, and that's why our old t-shirts are worth so much, because we never made that many, mainly because there wasn't that many punk rockers on the planet then, right? So you can see the difference. Just, of course, you have more control if you print it yourself on your papers and how you want it. Like this, I did a nice gloss cover, see it reflecting. These I did matte, and I kind of like the way the matte looks. I haven't tried a gloss on KDP yet, but the paper's not as good. It's not horrible, but these are... When you do it yourself, spend a little money. If you ever get to that point or you want to do that, find yourself a good printer. I've been working with the printers I use for decades, so I pretty happy with them. So there's something for you to think about if you are looking for different ways to do things. And you're not going to get rich unless you have 1 million people already following you. Or maybe you'll be that 1 in 1 million person that makes it, into the NBA, or becomes a rock star when there's 5 billion other people just as good as you, and you just hit the luck, right? Can happen, sure. If you're banking on that, you're going to be a depressed person later on. So everything requires a little bit of developing yourself, and that's my opinion. That's all. So subscribe to my channel if you like watching this stuff. If you don't, subscribe anyways, because you don't have to look at it, and it helps me. Supposedly, I haven't seen the results of help yet because I think I've got 6 people. This is just another something to do, and doing stuff is, to me, is kind of important. I like these whales, little critters. So anyways, that's that. I'm gonna go now.